A family trip. My name is Emma Taylor. I am 14 years old. I live in a small town in Oregon with my mom, my dad, and my little sister Lily. Every summer, we go on a trip together. Some years we go camping in the mountains. Other years we visit my grandparents in Washington. But this year was going to be special. One evening in June, Dad came home from work with a big smile on his face. "I have a surprise," he said. "What is it?" Lily asked, bouncing up and down. She was only 7 and loved surprises more than anything. Dad pulled a brochure out of his bag. On the cover was a picture of a huge cruise ship sailing across bright blue water. "We're going on a cruise to Alaska," he announced. Lily gasped. "A cruise? Like a boat?" "Not just any boat," Mom said, smiling. "A giant ship with restaurants, swimming pools, and even a movie theater." I felt my heart jump with excitement. I had never been on a cruise ship before. I had never even been on an airplane. This trip was going to be full of firsts. "When do we leave?" I asked. "In 2 weeks," Dad said. "We'll fly from Portland to Seattle, then board the ship." For the next 14 days, it was all I could think about. I told my friends at school, and they were all jealous. "Take lots of pictures," my best friend Ava said. "I will," I promised. I spent hours looking up pictures of cruise ships online. They looked like floating cities. I couldn't believe we were really going. Part 2. The night before we left, I packed my suitcase carefully. I put in warm clothes because Alaska would be cold, even in summer. I packed my favorite hoodie, my camera, and the book I was reading. Lily packed her things too, but she mostly filled her bag with stuffed animals and coloring books. "Do you really need all of those?" I asked, pointing to the mountain of toys. "Yes," she said seriously. "They get lonely if I leave them." I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't help smiling. The next morning, we woke up before the sun. Mom made a quick breakfast, but I was too excited to eat much. Dad loaded our suitcases into the car, and we drove to the airport. It was my first time seeing so many airplanes up close. The airport felt huge and full of people rushing in every direction. When it was finally time to board, my hands were shaking. Mom squeezed my shoulder. "Don't worry," she said. "Flying is safer than driving." "I know," I said, though my stomach still felt tight. Once we were in our seats, I looked out the window. The plane began to move, faster and faster, until the ground fell away. I gasped. The world below looked tiny, like a toy city. "Cool," Lily whispered, her nose pressed to the glass. When we landed in Seattle, we collected our bags and took a taxi to the port. And there it was, our cruise ship. It was even bigger than I imagined. White and shiny, with rows of balconies and bright flags fluttering in the breeze. Lily's mouth fell open. "It's huge. Let's go check in," Dad said, smiling. After showing our tickets and passports, we walked up the long ramp onto the ship. Inside, it looked like a fancy hotel. The floor was shiny and smooth. There was a grand staircase in the middle, and people everywhere, carrying luggage and taking pictures. Our cabin was on the 7th deck. It had 2 small beds and a sofa that turned into a bed for Lily. There was even a little balcony where we could look out at the ocean. "This is so cool," I said, putting my bag down. Lily jumped on the sofa. "I call this bed." "Let her have it," Mom said. "You and I will share." After unpacking, we went to explore the ship. There was a big buffet with every kind of food I could imagine. Pasta, salads, burgers, and a table covered in desserts. We walked through the pool area. Even though the air was chilly, people were swimming in the heated water. Then we found the kids' club, where Lily could play games and do crafts. "You can go here if you get bored," I told her. She shook her head. "I'm not going to get bored." Before dinner, we all went out on the deck to watch the ship leave the port. A loud horn sounded, and slowly the dock slipped away behind us. I stood by the railing, feeling the wind in my hair and the ship vibrating under my feet. I couldn't stop smiling. Our family trip had really begun. The first full day on the cruise ship was amazing. After breakfast in the buffet room, we joined a guided tour to learn about the ship. Our guide showed us where the movie theater was, the library, and even a small ice skating rink. Yes, you can ice skate on a cruise ship, a guide said proudly. I want to try that, I said. We'll come back tomorrow, Dad promised. That afternoon, we reached our first stop, Ketchikan, Alaska. The ship docked near a small town surrounded by mountains and forests. We got off the ship and joined a tour group that took us to a place called Totem Bight State Park. There were tall wooden totem poles carved by Alaska Native people. A woman from the local tribe explained the meanings behind the animals and shapes. This one tells the story of a bear who protected a village, she said, pointing to a tall pole. Lily held Dad's hand the whole time. That bear was a good guy, she said. I took pictures of every pole and wrote notes in my journal. I wanted to remember everything I saw. After the tour, we went to a small gift shop and bought postcards and little carved animals. We returned to the ship by dinner time. That night was formal night, so we all dressed up. Dad wore a jacket and tie. Mom wore a blue dress. Lily wore a sparkly pink outfit. I wore the black dress I got for my school dance. We had dinner in the fancy dining room with white tablecloths and soft music. The waiter brought us bread, soup, and steak with mashed potatoes. For dessert, I had a slice of chocolate cake so rich I couldn't even finish it. Lily fell asleep in her chair before dessert came. Tomorrow is another big day, Mom said, as Dad carried Lily back to our cabin. The next morning, we woke up to see huge mountains outside our window. The ship had reached Glacier Bay. We all went to the top deck, wearing jackets and hats. The wind was cold, but the view was worth it. In front of us was a giant glacier, a wall of blue and white ice that stretched from the sea up into the mountains. A park ranger came on the speaker system and gave a short talk. Glaciers are slow-moving rivers of ice. This one is over 250 years old, he said. We watched as a chunk of ice broke off and splashed into the sea. Whoa, Lily shouted. It's like an ice explosion. Later that day, we joined a nature hike. A guide took us through a trail in the forest. We saw bald eagles flying above us and even spotted a deer. Keep your eyes open, the guide said. Bears sometimes wander near this area. Lily gasped. Will it eat us? No, sweetie, Mom said gently. Bears don't want to bother people. We didn't see a bear, but I kind of hoped we would, from far away, of course. That evening on the ship, we watched a talent show. Some people sang. Others danced. One guy even juggled 5 balls at once. It makes me want to learn a talent, I whispered to Mom. You already have one, she said. Your pictures are amazing. I smiled and looked down at my camera. Maybe photography was my talent. On the 4th day, we reached Juneau, the capital of Alaska. It was a small city surrounded by snow-topped mountains. We took a tour to the Mendenhall Glacier and then visited a wildlife center. There, we saw a rescued bald eagle, a fox, and 2 black bears that couldn't live in the wild anymore. They take care of injured animals here, Dad explained. Lily pressed her face to the glass in front of the bear. He looks sad. I think he's okay now, I said. He's safe. After lunch, we rode a cable car up to the top of a mountain. From there, we could see the whole city and the ship docked in the harbor. It felt like we were standing on top of the world. That night, there was a dance party on the deck. There were lights, music, and even a DJ. Mom danced with Lily. Dad tried to teach me a few moves, and I laughed until my stomach hurt. When I finally lay down in bed, my face still hurt from smiling. This was more than a vacation. It felt like magic. The next morning, we woke up early because it was our last stop, Skagway, Alaska. Skagway looked like an old town from the gold rush days. The buildings were wooden, painted in bright colors. Horses pulled carriages down the main street. Our family signed up for a ride on the White Pass and Yukon Route train. We climbed onto a narrow, green train car with big windows. The seats were soft, and the air smelled like old wood. When the train started moving, I pressed my face to the glass. We passed forests, tall waterfalls, and cliffs so high they made my stomach flutter. The guide told us stories over the speaker. In the late 1800s, thousands of people came here, hoping to find gold, he explained. This railroad was built so supplies could reach the miners. As the train climbed higher, we saw patches of snow on the ground. I've never seen snow in June, Mom said, laughing. After the train ride, we walked through Skagway. We visited a museum full of old tools, gold pans, and photos of miners with beards down to their chests. Lily pointed at one photo and giggled. That man looks like Santa Claus. At a small shop, Dad bought me a silver necklace with a tiny bear charm. It's for you to remember Alaska, he said, as he fastened it around my neck. I touched the little bear and smiled. Thank you. That evening, the ship left Skagway and started back toward Seattle. For our last night, there was a special dinner in the main dining room. The waiters wore white jackets, and the chef came out to wave at everyone. I ordered salmon, which they said was fresh from Alaska. It was the best fish I'd ever tasted. After dinner, we went to the theater for a show. It was a musical with singing and dancing about the history of Alaska. Lily fell asleep halfway through, her head on Mom's shoulder. When the show ended, we walked slowly back to our cabin. The hallways were quiet. Inside our room, I opened the balcony door one last time. The sea stretched out black and endless under the stars. I stood there for a while, breathing in the cold, salty air. I thought about everything we had seen. Glaciers, bears, mountains, little towns, and bright, endless daylight. I felt different, braver, older somehow. When I finally closed the door, I knew I would never forget this trip. The next morning, the ship docked in Seattle. We packed our bags and said goodbye to our little cabin. At the airport, Lily hugged her stuffed bear tightly. I don't want to go home, she said. Me neither, I admitted. Mom smiled. That's how you know it was a wonderful trip. The flight back to Oregon felt much shorter. When we landed, everything seemed smaller and quieter after all the places we had been. Dad carried our bags to the car. We drove home through green hills and pine forests. When we finally pulled into our driveway, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. Home looked just the same, but I didn't feel quite the same anymore. That night, I sat on my bed and opened my journal. I wrote down everything I could remember. This trip showed me how big the world is. It made me feel brave. I want to travel more someday. I closed the journal and touched the silver bear necklace at my throat. I knew that no matter where I went in the future, a piece of me would always belong to the sea, the mountains, and the memories we made together. The next few days after we returned home felt slow and quiet. Our house was just as we'd left it, comfortable and warm, but something inside me had changed. The cruise, the mountains, the sea, all of it kept playing in my mind like a movie. On Saturday, I printed out my favorite photos from the trip. One of me and Lily on the deck with the glacier behind us. One of Dad laughing in Skagway. One of Mom holding a bald eagle feather at the nature center. I made a scrapbook using colored paper, glue, stickers, and markers. On the front, I wrote, Alaska, Our Family Adventure. It took me 2 days to finish the scrapbook. When I showed it to my family, everyone smiled. You're so creative, Mom said. This is better than the photo book the cruise gave us, Dad added. Lily pointed to a photo of her hugging a stuffed bear. That's me and Mr. Snowy, I laughed. Yes, and you came all the way back with us. As summer went on, I talked to my best friend Ava about the trip almost every day. You're lucky, she said. My family just stayed home. I didn't think it would change me, but it did, I told her. Now I want to see more of the world. Me too, she said. Maybe one day we can take a trip together. That night, I asked my parents, can we go somewhere new next summer too? Dad looked at Mom and smiled. We'll see. Maybe Yellowstone, or somewhere even farther. Louis shouted, can we go to the jungle next time? Let's take it one step at a time, Mom said with a laugh. But I knew we would travel again. Maybe not on a cruise, maybe not soon, but someday. As the school year began, I brought my scrapbook to class for show and tell. I told my classmates about the mountains, the train ride, and the giant glaciers. Most of them had never been to Alaska. Some had never left Oregon. You're lucky, one girl said. Yes, I replied, I really am. But I also learned something important on that family trip. You don't have to go far to feel wonder. It's about being curious, about seeing new things, and most of all, being together. That summer gave me more than just fun memory. It gave me courage. It gave me dreams. And it gave me time with the people I love most in the world. Our family trip wasn't perfect. We got tired, we got cold, and we got lost once. But we laughed, we learned, and we grew closer. And I will carry that with me always. No matter where life takes me.